Well, howdy, physics sleuths and inquisitive souls, and welcome to Dynamic Gravity. So, if I'm right, if dynamic gravity works, if gravity works the way I think it does, what does this mean? How can we manipulate this to make a spaceship, to interstellar travel? How can we create anti gravity and, do all this stuff? I thought about this recently, trying to figure it out. It's definitely not going to be easy, or it would have been done already. But I think there are some ways. Here's 3 ways I'm going to go over in this video that could possibly manipulate gravity on some sort. Unfortunately, I've deemed all 3 of these as failures as far as creating an anti-gravity drive that could power like a spaceship or something for various reasons. There is a 4th way that I'm working on currently now. It's a doozy though. Ooh, I gotta jump through so many hoops on fire with this one, but it is very promising, and I'll let you guys know more when I know more. But yeah, let's dig into this and see what we got. So the first way would be, I think, from acids. All right, and you might be thinking, what do acids have to do with gravity? Well, acids. Let's see here. Let's delete this. I'm not entirely sure where this came from. Acids are essentially a charge imbalance, all right? So you'll have like a electron and a proton, and the proton is positive and the electron is negative, right? But let's say we have an ion, or we got like a neutron and a proton and a neutron and a proton. And so we got like 3 charges, and we only got one. We only got one electron for this. And so we have a huge, huge, massive charge imbalance. Well, if you don't know, if you haven't read it yet, it's in my description on my videos, a description of how I think gravity works. And I calculate dark energy and dark matter in that paper. So look in the description and read that paper if you haven't already. Trust me, do yourself a favor. I'm assuming you know all that knowledge when I speak about this stuff. Otherwise, we can't get anything done. So we got a very positive charge imbalance, and if it was, that makes it an acid. And if it's a base, it will have a very negative charge imbalance, like a lot more negative charges than positive. So it's a very charge imbalance with positive charges. And they're going to want to suck up all the negative charges they can, which makes it an acid because it reacts, it performs chemistry on things that are normally chemistry stable and room temperature. But that's what acids do. They rip away all the negative entities from things and dissolve it, as we call it. But this charge imbalance is exactly what we want when we want to create gravity, because that's what gravity is ultimately, is a charge imbalance you can almost go to. So if we can create a charge imbalance and have a concentration of positive charges, then we can in effect create a anti-gravity effect. So if we had an acid, like say here is a table of some of the strongest acids and strongest bases. Like here's one of the strongest bases, hydrogen borite ion. There's the empirical chemical formula for it. And here is like one of the strongest acids, like hydrochloric or hydroiodic acid and perchloric acid. Well, the world's strongest acid, apparently, so they claim, is what is it called? It's a billion times. Yeah, fluoroantimonic acid, and it's got a H negative 21. Here is the Wikipedia page on it. It's actually a combination of like fluoride with like two hydrogens having a huge positive balance. Plus, I don't know what this Sb is. I'm assuming that's a element. It's got to be. And then with a bunch of fluorides around it, which looks like have a negative charge to it. I don't understand how that works together, but they say this is the world's strongest acid. I'm certainly not going to stick my hand in a vat of the stuff to prove them wrong. It is what it is. I believe them. So, in effect, if we could have a vat of acid in it, and we got all of our acid positive protons, positively charged molecules in this vat. And if we had, like, say, a magnetic stir or something, a little, rod in there, with a base plate that's magnetic, that spins like, then this whole solution would effectively spin around and around and around, in a circle, which could create, as I've described in other videos, gravimetric curl, which so far we've never seen, and that could create a very interesting effect. It'd be like turning an electric field into a magnetic field is what curl does. So if we had a gravitational field and we create a curl on there by, swirling things around in motion, really weird things could happen. Who knows? We could create anti-gravity. But I ruled this out, not because it's a bad ideal. If we could do this, like a vat of protons and swirl them around, that would be amazing. But effectively, it's unrealistic. Acids, as it comes out, are mixed and diluted in water to make them stable. So you got your acid, and you got your water molecule, which is, hydrogen, whatever. And it's going to like ionically bond to this, and to bring it into solution. That's what water does. It's a very polar molecule. It brings everything into solution with it, except for like oils and alcohols and stuff, which is why we think they're special. But everything else goes in the solution, and that basically kind of neutralizes it. I mean, not totally, but enough that it's not a good source of anti-gravity. It wouldn't work out so well. If we could have like a vat of just pure protons, we could absolutely create some sort of anti-gravitational effect, definitely. But once again, protons are like the most unstable known particle in all of physics because they're the strongest acid. They absolutely need to react with something to counterbalance that charge, and they're going to strip that electron away from anything, man. It doesn't matter. Anything around them, they're just going to rip it away from to become stable. So, I ruled out the acids, unfortunately. It would have been nice to have like just a chemical vat of a really strong acid and just swirl it around in motion and then have like an anti-gravitational effect and power spaceships from this. But unfortunately, I just don't think this is the way to go because having just a pure acid is really unreasonable. So the next thing that I looked at was plasma. So Here's a video of just two electrodes with electricity running through them in a quasi-vacuum. And, oh my God, let me turn that off. That's just so annoying. But, yeah, as soon as it starts lighting up, you're going to see it's going to create plasma. So, and if you look at this, this is an effect that some people have noticed that no one really understands why. When you create plasma, it loves to go up, not straight across or down, but it always goes up against your gravitational field. Like it has an anti-gravitational component, and no one knows why. My theory of gravity knows why. Because what's going on here, when you're creating this plasma, it's almost it's in a vacuum chamber, and they do have a lot of the gas evacuated out of it, but not all of it. It's not a perfect vacuum, so there is gas in there. So what's happening is when you're running electricity, like high voltage electricity, through this quasi vacuum, you're highly exciting these particles, like hydrogen or whatever, oxygen, and it's exciting them enough to rip the to rip the electron from the proton and to make it a ionized gas, where it's basically just a proton, and then you got your electrons, that are swirling around. So basically you have a stream of protons, which is exactly what we want to create, is just a bunch of protons, no electrons, if we want to make anti-gravity. But it's really hard. This is a really hard thing to do because, okay, yes, we can do this. We can create a high voltage, a high voltage string of protons going from one electrode to the other in this gas, which is almost at a vacuum. And the reason why is because you're exciting this gas, and it's forcing these electrons to rip away because they have too much energy. They have to go away. But normally they would stay with the gas because they would stay with the molecule, because there's a lot of pressure from atmospheric pressure and whatnot keeping those molecules together. But when you take away that pressure and you put it in a vacuum, there is no pressure. Now you don't need near as much energy to completely rip atoms or molecules apart from each other, from protons and electrons. And so now you have this plasma gas, this plasma string, goes like that. The problem is, the only way to really do this is with in a vacuum. And we need a highly concentrated source of protons to get, an actual gravitational effect. The amount of anti-gravity we'd be generating from this is really minuscule, quite minuscule, from something experiment similar to this. So it's really tough, it's really hard to have like a concentrated source of just like protons, or even quarks might even be better. You have to use a lot of energy to do this. It's not natural. It's not natural in nature. This is not something that Mother Nature likes. Is to have a bunch of protons, like ions, just crammed together into a group that you can use to manipulate the very force of gravity itself. So if we were to try and concentrate this by increasing the pressure at all, then this doesn't work anymore. You don't have enough energy to ionize the gas, or you need a lot more energy. And now, okay, how much energy do we need? Do we go from like thousands, tens of thousands of volts to what, tens of millions of volts? I mean, it becomes unrealistic pretty quickly, which is why I've kind of abandoned it. I'm still working out maybe some way to create a plasma engine that can have plasma running through all of it continuously, maybe that will produce an effect that's measurable, but I don't think it's going to work well enough to actually create thrust or lift to, shoot a rocket into space, unfortunately. But who knows? I've been wrong before. Maybe I'm wrong again. The third method that I've looked into is called like disassociation, right? This is basically there's only not many people that use this. Basically, you just have like a really strong electric field, a lot of electricity, to forcibly, once again, just like in a plasma, rip the electrons away from protons, like hydrogen gas or something. The difference is they're not doing this in a vacuum. They're actually doing it with a lot more electricity, probably partially evacuated too, but it's not really creating a plasma and the same effects. But it's called disassociation, and this is how CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, gets its source for its protons. It accelerates in its little circle of death. So here is, I believe, a kind of a description and a layout of CERN's hydrogen disassociation thing. Maybe not. Maybe this is something else. Anti-hydrogen spectroscopy, whatever. I think it's related to CERN, though, if I'm not mistaken. Austrian, maybe not. Yeah, Austria. Maybe I'm totally off on this one. But it's a thing, though. So, like, CERN's thing... hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay, yeah. So this is the actual tube that does the disassociation, where they just basically use a very intense electric field, and it rips away all of the electrons from the protons in this little container, and then they use a magnetic field to accelerate them along their little track. So this is the way that definitely works, but it requires a lot of electricity, and I don't think you can get a very heavily concentrated thing. I think whenever they do it, they use a lot of electricity, and they get maybe like 50,000 protons, and of that, they say maybe like 70% are actually in a complete, positive protonated state where they can be accelerated in the particle accelerator, and the other 30% are still kind of, this hydrogen gas. So it's not exactly perfect. This is an interesting way, though, that you could generate an anti-gravity effect if you could have a strong enough. So basically, like plasma and the dissociation are very similar, if not almost the same thing, in different regards, and just different mediums. Basically using a very strong electric field to excite and rip apart atoms, mainly gases, and then you have protons. But it's not concentrated. It's in a gas form, and we need it to be concentrated. The more the better. So the problem is, to my knowledge, this doesn't work if you do it on like a liquid or a gas. It's just there's too much pressure keeping that molecule together. You need a lot more energy to rip it apart, and at that point, you're almost creating fission or fusion reactions. You know what I mean? So it's hard. I don't have all the answers yet. I'm working on it. There is a fourth method that is absolutely 100% 100% efficient, and would probably work absolutely the best. Because another problem is all of these three methodologies are omnidirectional. So even if I could get them to work, all the energy would be shot out in all different directions, all the anti-gravity effects. We would really want a directional gravitational effect. So this last one that I'm working on that I'm not yet ready to talk about would do that, but man, I'm gonna have to dive really deep for this one. So wish me some luck. So anyways, this is just a brief explanation on how you could legitimately create anti-gravitational effects through dynamic gravity. Time tells all. We'll see who's right in the end and who gets to laugh last. But I'm still working on creating the world's first spaceship. Maybe in my lifetime, maybe our lifetime, we'll actually get to travel to Alpha Centauri, or at the very least, Jupiter. But realistically, it's going to take a lot of money, resources, and manpower. And I can't even get anybody to listen to my theory of gravity. So it is what it is. I'll head you on the flip side. Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.
Like, subscribe, submit.